On the eastern Baltic coast, only one local tribe forged its own nation, with its own warriors, its own trade, its own wealth, and its own gods. Lithuania. When the Pope recognized the coronation of Mindaugas as Lithuania's ruler in 1253, Lithuania officially became a state by Western standards. Evidence of that medieval state, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, remain in the center of Vilnius, capital of the modern Republic of Lithuania. Vilnius Cathedral stands atop the crypt and foundations of Lithuania's first church, built by Mindaugas. Across Cathedral Square is a monument to the Grand Duchy's greatest rulers, Grand Duke Gediminas and his descendants, Algirdas, Kęstutis, Jogaila, and Vytautas. In the 14th and 15th centuries, these dukes withstood constant attacks from crusading military orders, Mongols, and Tatars. The Grand Duke's military aristocracy evolved into a parliament of nobles, whose rule, for the first time in the region, was based on legal statutes. The dukes extended their state until it stretched from the Baltic to the Black Sea. In 1569, Lithuania and Poland formed a joint commonwealth. Initially a success, the Commonwealth in the following 2 centuries became less able to defend itself and was finally partitioned by Prussia, Austria, and Russia in 1795. The best way to see Vilnius is to walk up Castle Hill behind the cathedral. On the left are the ruins of the old ducal residence. On the right, in the distance, 3 crosses commemorate some monks martyred for trying to convert pagan Lithuania a little too early. Atop the hill is Gediminas' tower, with outstanding views in all directions. To the northeast is St. Peter and Paul's Church. Italian artisans created a white Baroque gem containing over 2,000 figures. The Upper Ducal Palace once occupied the rest of the hill. To the southeast, by the Vilna River, is St. Anne's, a Gothic masterpiece now over 500 years old. To the south, a panorama of the vast Old Town, the center of which is St. John's, the heart of Vilnius University. Founded in the 16th century, the university is famous for its ornate murals and a labyrinth of a dozen courtyards. The university's elaborate bronze doors celebrate Lithuanian, the most archaic Indo-European language, neighboring universities, and book publishing. The doors face modern Lithuania's presidential palace. Vilnius, or Castle Street, just below Gediminas' tower, is Vilnius's oldest. The adjacent side streets and courts invite exploration. You might find some of the many reminders of Poland's greatest romantic poet, Adam Mickiewicz. A university student exiled for opposition to Tsarist occupation, Mickiewicz was one of many Polish cultural figures linked with Vilnius. In the middle of Vilnius is the Signer's House, where the founders of the new Lithuanian Republic signed the Act of Independence in 1918. A little further along Vilnius is St. Nicholas the Wonder Worker, one of 4 Orthodox churches in Old Town. Built for a Russian princess in the 14th century, it's a reminder that many of the Grand Duchy's allies subjects, and court officials were Orthodox Slavs. Pilies ends at Rotušės, or Town Hall Square. The Baroque cathedral on one side is named for Casimir, Lithuania's patron saint. Numerous medieval streets meander out from the square. The main route is up Didžioji, or Great Street, to Philharmonic Square. A detour through the nearby Basilian Gate brings us to Holy Trinity, a rare Uniate church. The Uniate faith is a synthesis of Orthodox and Catholic beliefs, created in the 16th century and suppressed later by both Tsarist and Communist authorities. This Uniate Church is an example of religious freedom in the Grand Duchy. Catholics, Orthodox, Protestants, Muslims, and Jews all had their own houses of worship in Vilnius. The Gates of Dawn is a chapel, a popular pilgrimage site, and the last remaining city gate. Due west of the cathedral is the new city, bisected by Gedimino Prospect. The prospect goes past Lukiškių Square, where a Lenin statue once pointed to the KGB's headquarters and prison, now a museum. At the very end of the prospect is the National Library and the Parliament Building. Here, in 1991, thousands stood up to the Red Army to protect their newly re-independent Lithuanian state. The island castle of Trakai is a delightful day trip from the capital. Many Trakai homes have unusual Eastern features. Their builders were Crimeans, resettled from 1,000 kilometers south to serve as the Duke's personal guard. This former military stronghold is dedicated now to peaceful pursuits. "80 kilometers west of Vilnius, off the Central Highway, is Rumšiškės, an open-air ethnic museum. It's a chance to admire crafts and buildings from all of Lithuania's 4 ethnographic regions: Žemaitija, or the lowlands in northwest Lithuania, Aukštaitija, the highlands of the northeast, Suvalkija, by the Polish border, and Dzūkija, in the southeast. Rumšiškės is the nation's most popular place for celebrating traditional holidays such as the end-of-winter carnival, called Užgavėnės. Even in cities, people feel close enough to nature to celebrate its seasons with dance, song, and craft festivals year-round. For Lithuanians, the months themselves are named after the cycle of nature. Winter has dry, frozen earth and sunny months. Spring starts out with a fight, followed by dove and cuckoo bird months. Summer brings birch and linden trees, then rye cutting. Autumn, rye sowing, flax making, and leaf fall. Even many people's names are the same words used for elements of nature, such as fire, dawn, storm, dew, amber, and even happiness. A 100 kilometers west of Vilnius, where Lithuania's largest rivers, the Nemunas and Neris, meet, is Kaunas, the second city. This natural trading center prospered under Grand Duke Vytautas, who strengthened its fortress and liberalized trade. Its new wealth was symbolized by Vytautas's church and the Hanseatic-linked Perkūnas, or Thunder House. Kaunas's 100-acre Old Town starts at Rotušės, or Town Hall Square, whose 16th century building became a popular wedding site. Even in the Soviet era of official wedding palaces, natives preferred the traditional atmosphere of their old town hall. The nearby St. Peter and Paul's Cathedral, founded in the 15th century, boasts 9 Baroque altars. Vilnius Street was once the road to Vilnius, but is now an ideal pedestrian route from old to new town. Poland occupied Vilnius between the world wars, and Kaunas became the temporary capital. Kaunas's presidential palace is now a park with statues of the first presidents, Aleksandras Stulginskas, Kazys Grinas, and Antanas Smetona. The synagogue stands between Old and New Town. Kaunas was home to Lithuania's largest Jewish community before the Nazi invasion of 1941. Where Vilnius Street ends, Laisvės Alėja, or Liberty Avenue, begins, a 1.5 kilometer long boulevard through the new city. Halfway down Liberty Avenue, the statue of Vytautas the Great stands over his conquered enemies. A block north is Unity Square, with many First Republic buildings. The National Art Gallery is dedicated to the nation's most famous artist, Čiurlionis. Further along Liberty Avenue is another reminder of the 30s, a funicular, one of 2 in the city. Laisvės Alėja finally ends near the massive church of St. Michael the Archangel, Independence Square, and the Modern Art Museum. The 9th Fort, just outside Kaunas, is now a memorial to the victims of Nazis. Most Jews were killed during World War II, but remembered now by the hundreds of monuments built since independence. Serenely situated on a peninsula of the Kaunas Lagoon is the Pažaislis Church and Monastery, a Baroque complex designed in the 17th century by Italian masters. An excursion boat from Kaunas on the Nemunas River is an excellent way to follow the castle route west through the center of Lithuania. Lithuania has nearly 1,000 former temple and castle mounds, places of faith and refuge in pre-Christian times. Grand Duke Gediminas himself is said to have died defending this very hill. Under constant assault from German crusaders, the Grand Dukes developed a defensive network to protect the country's interior. After Grand Duke Vytautas and his cousin Jogaila, King of Poland, destroyed the Teutonic Knights in 1410, conflict ebbed. The river then became an important trade route, and the castles, noble estates. Nowadays, the castles offer a peaceful aspect. The Nemunas River meets the sea in the vast Curonian Lagoon, at whose mouth is the ice-free port of Klaipeda. The port began when the Teutonic Knights built a castle here in the 13th century. German traders then developed a town, mingling with the native population to create the most eastern of Prussia's cities. The city center is Theater Square. Anhen von Taro was a 17th century beauty, immortalized in song by a local admirer, Simon Dach. The Red Army captured Klaipeda near the end of World War II, driving out the inhabitants, destroying their churches, and even obliterating the cemeteries. Fortunately, the center of Old Town survived. Visitors can still enjoy viewing the tall, rounded, half-timber houses reminiscent of Dutch trading towns. The 19th century neo-Gothic buildings were built under the German Empire. Lithuania's smaller cities contain some big surprises. Kėdainiai, in the heart of Lithuania, yet off the tourist route, has a quiet, well-preserved old town. The local magnates were the Radvila family, known in the West as the Radzivills. The Kėdainiai Jewish Study House and the abandoned synagogue, along with the Jewish graveyards scattered throughout the country, are remnants of their once large community and reminders that the Grand Dukes put few restrictions on religious minorities. In Šiauliai, or Sun City, the statue of a golden man commemorates a victory over Crusaders. Local industries are honored at the bicycle and train museums. In smaller towns like Kupiškis, the border between rural and urban life can become blurred to indistinction. Druskininkai, or the place of salts, is a spa town centuries old. The Echo of the Forest Museum, in a real treehouse, celebrates the forests around the city, some of the best preserved in Lithuania. Perhaps this idyllic setting inspired Lithuania's most talented artist, Mikalojus Konstantinas Čiurlionis, whose home here is now a museum. He completed 300 paintings and 2 symphonies before his premature death at 35. Innovative and difficult to categorize, his works employ folk themes and symbolism, yet often border on the abstract. The Hill of Crosses near Šiauliai began in the 19th century when local residents set up crosses to honor anti-Tsarist rebels killed nearby. Over the years, more and more crosses were erected to commemorate other important people or events. Especially poignant are the memorials to those killed or forced into exile by the Soviet authorities, a reminder of the partisan war against Soviet occupation which killed 20,000 Lithuanians. The last partisan was killed in 1965. Hundreds of thousands of Lithuanians were exiled to the far reaches of the Soviet Union, forced to live in the most primitive conditions. The private Soviet sculpture park near Druskininkai shows how one entrepreneur made lemonade out of Leninist lemons. Other Soviet leftovers, such as the massive cement housing structures in every city and the neglected infrastructure, will take some time to replace. And the disastrous collectivization of farming set agriculture back half a century. The horse played a vital role on the typical Lithuanian family farm, and many folk songs celebrate the horse as a social as well as a work companion. So it is no surprise to find an entire museum dedicated to horses in the town of Anykščiai. One common folk theme is for the protagonist to ride out to meet his lady love, then relate his ensuing thoughts to his horse. Lithuania is also ideal dairy country. Cows, treated almost as pets, can be extremely friendly. One of the benefits of less industrialized agriculture is naturally organic fruit and a huge variety of mushrooms, from squirrels to old woman's ear. Lithuanians value their wide selection of dairy products, but take particular pride in their hearty bread, especially dark rye, and good beer. And the best place to enjoy a fresh beer is a lakeside sauna. A visit to the many rural ethnocultural museums is a chance to witness the old traditions of Lithuanian country life. Home industries included dairy production and weaving, especially of flax, still an important export. Textiles included regional patterns and mystic symbols. In pagan times, ceremonial belts were woven for every newborn. They are still worn during special occasions like weddings. Saints' images on poles are the successors to pagan sacred trees and carvings. As elsewhere, rural religious practices synthesize earlier traditions with Christian ones. Modern visitors are impressed by the devotion of believers and the quiet beauty and dignity of the wooden churches. Lithuania's clean, uncrowded countryside is ideal bird country. Storks, for example, are more numerous here than anywhere else in Europe. Bees are important enough to have their own museum. They were thought to like good people, to sing, be able to talk, and had their own special bee god. A beehive was a blessing indeed, and the first laws protecting them are over 500 years old. Even the language reflects this reverence for bees. Only bees die as humans do. A bumblebee is a bee mother, and the word for best friend is bee brother. The dense forests that once covered the country sheltered pre-Christian Lithuanians from invasion, and trees, especially oaks, were thought to have special powers. Large glacial stones often served as altars. Grass snakes, thought to be messengers from the gods, are still considered good luck today. In the lake region of Molete, men continue the search for their proper place in the universe at the Astronomical Observatory and Ethno-Cosmological Museum. This museum manages to combine the study of paleoastronomy with modern research. In a gorgeous country, it's possible to imagine that all things possess a spirit. In a land of 4,000 lakes and 30,000 streams, the pursuit of fish is a diversion with devout believers. They even have their own fishing museum. 5 national and 30 regional parks provide plenty of opportunities to enjoy an angler's paradise.
Palangos jūroj nuskendo mano meilė ir šaltos bangos jos neatsidos.
With 25 kilometers of beach, Palanga, a town of only 20,000, hosts over 500,000 sun-hungry visitors a year.
Mane dar šaukia, mano siela kažko laukia, Palangos jūroj nuskendo mano meilė.
The century-old botanical park, on the grounds of a former estate, includes a museum with over 25,000 pieces of the amber this region is famous for, and a cave said to be used by pagan priestesses. A short ferry ride from Klaipeda is Lithuania's Kaunian Spit. 50 kilometers of sand dunes, at its widest a few kilometers, at its narrowest only a few hundred meters. The entire spit is now a serene national park. The park is lightly populated. One of the few towns is Jodkrante, or Black Shore. It's known for its Witch's Hill, once a sacred spot. The hill is now covered with carvings based on local myths and legends. Devils, a common theme, are by tradition not mankind's mortal enemies, but impish or ridiculous rogues. At the spit's southern end is Nida, Lithuania's last and most peaceful town. Former fishermen's cottages face a small bay, an ideal place to quietly contemplate the wonders of nature. The famous writer Thomas Mann kept a summer house here, now a museum. He described Nida as a place where there are no roads, just sand, and the sky.